Dan Illman, David Aragona with Grade 1 action on Pennsylvania Derby Saturday at Parx. Race number 12 is for the fillies. It's the Grade 1 $1 million Cotillion. We're going 1 mile and a 16th. Let's take a peek at this field. This is a pretty good race. Pretty Mischievous is the leader in the division, David. 3 Grade 1 wins this year. She would not have won the test if not for the unfortunate incident with Maple Leaf Mel, but she's getting back to 2 turns, and I just think 1 mile and a 16th is perfect for her.
Yeah, I think you can debate how dominant Pretty Mischievous really is in this division, but she's done nothing wrong recently, seeking her 4th Grade 1 in a row, and she's just really versatile, both from a distance and running style standpoint, so she's the horse to beat, no doubt about it.
We'll throw up the Timeform US pace projector. We're expecting some pace in here for $1 million and some Southern California speed likely to come from the number 2 Ceiling Crusher, coming off a gate to wire win going 1 mile at Del Mar. This horse looks like the strong speed. The 9 Majestic Creed is fast. I'm not sure she's of the quality of Ceiling Crusher, however.
Yeah, Ceiling Crusher is really fast, and based on the way that she was ridden last time by Edwin Maldonado, who got on her for the first time, where they were intent on making the front end from the outside post position with a similar kind of ride, there's no doubt she's going to be in front in this race.
Foggy Night, the number 1, seems a bit underrated. She's won 3 of her last 4 starts, including the local prep for this race. This is the Catherine Sophia going 1 mile and 70 yards, and she got right up close to the pace. The rail opens up. Foggy Night shoots through, and Foggy Night wins. Now, again, she's won 3 of her last 4. The problem is, when she lost, she was dominated by a colt who she's going to have to face once again on Saturday.
Yeah, she's a pretty nice horse. You don't finish in the exacta at 9 out of 10 starts by accident. She just keeps showing up and running well in her races. She definitely is a horse that hasn't really stepped up against the best 3-year-old fillies out there with competitive speed figures. So I think she's going to have to improve a little bit, but she's run well at Parx and she's drawn well towards the inside.
California-bred Ceiling Crusher has won 5 of 6 lifetime, including this victory in the open Grade 3 Torrey Pines last time out. She had to hustle out of there from the far outside post. What I liked most about it was on the backstretch, she really came to hand. She wasn't speed crazy at all. When Maldonado pushes the button again, she just gets away from this group. Now, I'm not sure what she's beating in this field, and I think you have to at least ask, even though she won that Malaire at 1 mile and a 16th, that race, she pretty much had to fall down to lose on paper. Does she want to go this far?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because she hasn't really faced competition of this quality going 2 turns. I think the real point to make with her is that she's dangerous when she's aggressive, because they tried to rate her 2 back in that Fleet Treat, and it just seemed like she just lost her focus, didn't run her race for whatever reason that day. But when they get aggressive in these longer races, she can use that speed to really run other foes off the bridle, and that's what makes her dangerous in these spots. Whether she's really good enough to beat a field like this, it remains to be seen, but they're going to take their chances on the front end.
Pretty Mischievous never off the board from 9 lifetime starts, 3 Grade 1 wins in a row. Your thoughts on her performance in the test overall? She wasn't obviously going to win. Did you think that was a step back for her, or is it simply a situation where 7/8 might just be a bit sharp and she's a tweener, that the Alabama at 1 mile and a quarter was too far and that the 7/8 was too short and this is more to her liking?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it was a bit of an experiment last time trying to cut back to the 7 furlongs. I understand why they tried to do it, especially given having wet paint for the Alabama instead. I did think it was a slight step backwards. I mean, if you just kind of take Maple Leaf Mel out of the race, I mean, she was not going to be an impressive winner of that race regardless. And the speed figure came back on the low side. And then when you just kind of look back at her 3 Grade 1 victories, she beat Gambling Girl by a neck. She beat Darth Vader by a head. And then last time she beat Clearly Unhinged by a head. Those are not the top names in the division. So she's winning these races, but I wouldn't say that she's necessarily silencing the doubters in doing so.
After winning the first 3 starts of her career, the number 4 Hoosier Filly sort of turned into an enigma. She has shown talent on occasion, but she's been beaten more often than not, and a lot of times at short prices. She looked like she was finally coming back to herself in the Black-Eyed Susan 3 back, but she was run down by Tax that day going 1 mile and an 1/8. She couldn't have had an easier trip when beating Wet Paint on the lead in the Monoboy Girl. And last time out, I guess if you want to make the excuse that the bull ring at Charlestown isn't to her liking, you can, but she wasn't good at all.
Yeah, she was not good last time. She's a horse that I just haven't really ever been on the bandwagon of. I know she's had quite a following. Just from a speed figure standpoint, I've never quite gotten it. She had a perfect setup, as you said, when she won that Monomoy Girl two back, just kind of riding a bias that day where her main rival was severely compromised. She does her best running when she can sort of click off those 12-second eighths on the lead or just up close to the pace with an unencumbered trip. I don't see her getting that kind of trip in here, and I just don't think she's good enough in general.
I do think they will try to get a little bit more aggressive in here. They're not as fast as Seal and Crusher, but I can see them sitting second or third. The problem is if they're on a hard chase going after Seal and Crusher, well, then they have to overtake that one and then hold off the stalkers and the closers. And there's a quality one right next door in the starting gate, and that's the number 5, Occult. And you just have a feeling, perhaps, that she's the now horse in this division. Let's watch Occult's win in the Monmouth Oaks for trainer Chad Brown. This is super impressive stuff where she made this big, wide, sweeping move on the turn, and it's just all over at this point. She could name her margin.
Yeah, she had hinted at having taken a step forward in the Acorn two back when they just sort of experimented with a different running style, and she really seemed to respond to it, being taken so far off the pace and making a big move around the far turn. Maybe they took her a little too far back that day, but they used the same running style last time in the Monmouth Oaks, and boy, did she respond. I mean, she was always traveling in the bridle towards the back of the pack, not necessarily keen or rank, but just always ready to go. And as soon as Fergal Lynch pressed the button, she just ran by that field in an instant and then continued to draw off in the stretch. And she only got an 87 buyer, but horses have come back out of that race to run faster. Just look at the PPs of Foggy Night, who won out of that race, as well as the third place finisher Riding Pretty, who came back with an improved speed figure, winning her next start. So that was a legitimate performance. And she might be catching the right kind of field to get a grade 1 in this cotillion.
From a buyer speed figure standpoint, the number 6, Just Catherine, is rock solid, 90 plus buyers in her last 2 races, including this win, a first level allowance, going 1 mile and an eighth at Saratoga. And you see her down towards the inside. The trip worked out very well for her, but she did what she has to do. And you get the feeling that she's sort of improving. She showed some ability going 1 turn earlier this year, but it seemed that the break after the Gulfstream Park Oaks did her a world of good.
Yeah, this is a horse that I've had a little bit of an affinity for through the summer. I thought she was pretty interesting when she was stepping up against Tougher in that Wilton. And unfortunately, she just ran into a really good horse that day and randomized, who came back to win the Alabama in her next start. And this win we just looked at was good. She proved that she can handle the 2 turns. The 9 furlongs was no problem for her. The one thing I will say about her is that she has gotten to excellent trips in a row, riding a good rail in the Wilted two back, and then last time just coming up the inside, saving all the ground. But she did beat a good horse in Raging Sea, who took a step forward, second off the layoff for Chad Brown. So she's not bad, and very generous price at 12-1 on the morning line.
The 7, Defining Purposes, won a grade 1 this year. That was the Ashland during the spring. She then won the Indiana Oaks 2 starts back. Last time out in the Alabama, she was up close to the pace. She just couldn't go with randomize when that one started to kick clear at about the 5/16. She held on well for third. She's a very honest filly. I wonder if we've seen her best yet, though, David. Some of these other horses I still think have some upside. Defining Purpose, while rock solid, I wonder if we know what she is right now.
Yeah, she's definitely done better than I thought that she could. I've never been the biggest believer in this horse, but she is one that I think has taken advantage of circumstances on a few occasions. She's gotten very good trips when she's been successful in races like the Ashland and the Indiana Oaks two back. And then again, last time in the Alabama, she was very much with the flow of that race. It was a bit of a merry-go-round affair. She was just stalking the winner throughout, got passed by Wet Paint at the end to settle for third. She's not a bad horse. And I think she's one that could drift up a little bit off that 4-1 morning line if you like her. But I just feel like she's one that really does need the trip to work out.
Amonra is the number 8. I think she's a little bit underrated. I like the way she scored in a 1-turn mile against weaker horses at Gulfstream over a wet track 3 back. Thought she was compromised by the way the race was run in the Iowa Oaks. She was wired that day over what I thought was a speed favoring track. And last time out at Charlestown, again, if you want to make the bullring excuse, you can. She didn't run great that day. She's going to have to probably run a career best, but I could perhaps see her sneaking into the very bottom of exotics at a decent price.
Yeah, she's one that's sort of tough for me to gauge from a quality standpoint. She hasn't really faced the best competition in her races, even though she got some decent speed figures down in Florida. I thought she got a pretty good trip in that Charlestown Oaks last time, saving ground every step of the way and just came up totally empty in the stretch. So maybe she didn't like Charlestown, but she's got to do a lot better than that to be competitive against this field.
Majestic Creed is a speed type. She didn't make the lead in the Catherine Sophia, but she prompted the pace from the outside. She was no match for Foggy Night that day. She lost more ground than Foggy Night, but you still get the feeling that even if the trips were reversed, Foggy Night would have gotten the better of Majestic Creed. But she's fast and she's honest. The problem is perhaps her running style. I think she's going to have to go with Ceiling Crusher, and that could work against her.
Yeah, she's in career form right now, and given the way she ran two back, I won't be surprised if they try for the front ended here. But like you said, I think it's going to be a tall order for her to get there, and being on the outside chase might not be ideal for a horse like this.
Let's take a look at our top picks for the Grade 1 Cotillion. You're going with the Colt, and the last race just speaks for itself. It was just super impressive, and she might get a nice trip off what should be a solid pace.
Yeah, I was really impressed with her last race. I admittedly was kind of torn between my top two picks, a Colt and the number 6, Just Catherine. I sort of can't believe that Just Catherine's going to be 12-1 in this race, just given her competitive speed figures coming in. But if she is, she's certainly one that I would upgrade. I was just really impressed with the Colt's last race and feel like she stacks up pretty well against some of the shorter prices in this cotillion.
I respect her top two selections immensely. I'm just curious to see how far Ceiling Crusher can take this field. I think she's going to break. And I did like the way she switched off going into the backstretch last time out. And maybe if she does rate and get at least a legitimate half mile with a bit of a breather, she can sprint on home. Should be a nice addition of the cotillion. 5632 for David, 2653 for me. Good luck.